What's poppin'? Android Apex, and it's been a minute since I've done one of these. Approximately 5 months of the time of scripting this current video, with the scene getting mad busy, causing certain ideas to emerge to the forefront of my psyche.
Don't you want devoted followers who leave their families for you, give their money to you, give their bodies to you, give up their lives for you, consider you God, and will kill for you? Don't you want to become a cult leader?
Now, initially, this video was supposed to be just me chopping it up about the Super Mega debacle. But notice the coverage for the most part by others essentially got across the point I wanted to make and felt no need to add on to the subject matter. Then this Mamamax fuckery started popping off and I wanted to tap in here, but once again I think that there are videos that are exceptional at discussing the matter. I highly recommend Nickisnotgreen and Mudahara's video on the topic. All this understood, you might be asking yourself, what exactly is this video about? Well, this video is about a realization, a recurring thread I noticed within both of these situations, and I decided to merge the two topics together for the purposes of illustrating a greater narrative I see forming. In both instances, people exploited the desire for people and the masses at large to do right by victims. Noticing that there wasn't exactly a phrase for this occurrence, I decided Smiley himself would have to paint the picture for you, so visual.
And all these demons on my path appear 'cause I invited them.
For clarification and to make my position known to everyone who could potentially be having a knee-jerk reaction to the title of this video, I want to let you know directly that I'm all for victims getting their dues, so long as there's definitive truth behind the sequence of events, giving the correct punishment to those who acted in bad favor. Notice how I said definitive truth about the sequence of events. Caveats of this nature's existing is important due to the very title of this chapter within the video. You see, audience capture is the idea of losing something in the pursuit of popularity and financial comfortability. The loss of one's own identity, guarding an audience from their perception of who they think they are versus who you truly are. A great example of this is stuff with Scoutfly, feeling trapped to be a nostalgia-driven cartoon viewer, when that wasn't ever who he was, inevitably shattering under the weight of keeping up the image. Or you can look at somebody like PewDiePie, who went from pretty safe content creator making let's plays to making Nazi jokes and saying gamer words on top of bridges. The controversy propelling PewDiePie into the mainstream primarily was a byproduct of this perception that he was a safe content creator, one that could be perceived and consumed by children. Understanding how numerous issues can emerge from audience capture alone, we can now discuss what is victim capture.
2 is 20 years old, a little too old for parody Dream. Violet responds by saying, yeah, because you like 12-year-olds, freak. Fake Dream responds, 12-year-olds? Where? Luke responds by saying, more of a man than you'll ever be. Fake Dream responds, that's the problem.
Especially since I was 17 and still in school and he knew that, it crosses the line when he's sending me his huge house and inviting me. The worst flirt I recall was on Snapchat, and obviously those delete. If you don't believe someone but have no proof to prove them wrong, then keep it to yourself. I mean, if you're making a public accusation with very little proof, you're gonna have people questioning it.
Similar to audience capture, victim capture has a goal in mind: retribution. By chasing the right party to be punished, resulting in the wrong party, ironically enough, getting punished for a crime they didn't commit. The more egregious the action, the stronger the likelihood that the misguided efforts will come to the forefront. The more severe the crime is, the less likely people are to question or look into evidence. Similar to that cognitive dissonance that's created through having an image of yourself that the audience doesn't know person just represent who you are, victim capture creates victims through a lack of vetting and proper skepticism about the evidence as it's laid out to the public at large, warping the perception of the unjust party in question, incapable of interacting with the internet no longer due to an irreversible damage happening to the perception of who they are. With that groundwork established, we finna delve into the topic proper.
On the back burner, Cat Murphy season.
Hey, just wanted to let you know, since this topic has been discussed exhaustively, I won't be doing an insane in-depth backstory as to who Mamamax is and who he was prior to being the internet's version of Chris Hansen with a corpse husband pitch. Most of what I'll be saying here and what I'll be talking about will be operating with some understanding that you do have some rudimentary understanding and knowledge as to who Mamamax is. I think the true reason why most people didn't critically look at Mamamax's actions was due to him targeting collectively hated individuals, or peeps with little to no notoriety. Though, through understanding these prior events, we get a better visual as to who Mamamax has always been up to this point. With constantly getting his videos flagged and an incapability of getting the word out about predators, he vented his frustration about YouTube, resulting in prominent YouTuber Moist Critical making a video about it, signal boosting the word about his channel.
This also comes into play with Mamamax's video, if you remember that controversy that happened where Mamamax had this huge video that got taken down, and it was taken down, if I remember correctly, because he showed a phone number for like 3 seconds on screen. Well, instead of taking that whole video down, why not just let Mamamax know, take this out and the video stays up? I'm sure he would have obliged using YouTube's editing tools. So I wanted to make sure that they heard that suggestion, and Susan in particular really liked the idea and really wanted to press that on the policy team, and the policy had also liked the idea and wanted to explore ways of slowly implementing this policy over time too. So it just really felt like everyone there was actually receptive to feedback. Susan was pressing questions to the policy team guy about, well, why aren't we doing this? Can we do this?
Getting a campaign about the gruesome puppy snarper known to a wider audience, resulting in a positive change for YouTubers overall. You think this incredible net gain for creators would be everything Mamamax would have wanted. Mamamax wouldn't consider more extreme paths to get results next time, right? Nah.
Response to injustice, speaking up for victims like children and pursuing the perpetrators like pedophiles. It is volatile, intense, disturbing, upsetting, raw, and real. Because that is the subject matter it is covering, and that is the way it should be covered.
The next drama to come about from Mamamax was his video getting taken down for showing some IVU cheeks. You know, instead of just, I don't know, using the new editing tool afforded to him by YouTube to simply remove that aspect of the video, Mamamax had other plans. The declaration from Max was YouTube was actively protecting PDF files.
Susan Wojcicki, stop fucking lying to us every time you have to give a statement in response to videos like mine. All these broken promises you've made that never come into fruition. Either do something good for this site once in your fruitless life, or step the fuck down.
This Pick a Side YouTube campaign would have every conceivable influencer have their audience ask them for some immediate reaction or implicate them in supporting predators. I know how insanely incinerated that economy comes across. While claiming this was created to create some dialogue by any means, what this showed was Mamamax was willing to go to insane lengths to signal boost himself by any means. Most conduct was permitted because, after all, Mamamax is doing this for all the right reasons, right? This message about saving victims is further exacerbated by bringing up his petty qualms into Pick a Side YouTube. For instance, he needlessly mentions a favor he did for Corsuzzin.
The favor you owe me. I just couldn't help myself. So, remember when you reached out after years of not speaking to me while I was at the hospital tending to my sick girlfriend, and you kept trying to rush me home to do you a huge favor, and then you threw me under the bus for something you did, and at the same time acted like you were taking full responsibility for it. But I let you do it because I thought you were going to be my friend like you used to be, and then you stopped talking to me immediately after you were done using me. Yeah. So, how about you do me the fucking favor this time and talk about something besides yourself for once? It will give you a good look.
or taking shots at Tommy C for his criticisms about his conduct.
I get in here. Unfucking believable. You know what? You know what that tells me? He didn't send me the fucking DM because he knew I would fucking see right through it. He knew I would see through it. He knew I would expose him, and he figured putting me at the end. This is a threat. This is a fucking threat. Hey, jerk off. Go fuck yourself. You're a fucking liar. You're a piece of shit. You're not a journalist. You don't give a. You're a clout chasing just another YouTuber. You're no different than anybody else. You don't give a rat's ass, and you can suck my dick.
Making it hard to object to what he's doing because why he's doing it. On the Have Bake podcast, the illustration with Mamamax definitely accurately depicts how many felt going against Mamamax. Nobody wants to be seen as a person critiquing the pedo hunter, well, except Vito. But inevitably, Mamamax would unquestionably target the wrong person, causing everyone to start questioning him and asking all the right questions about the ethics of his conduct up to this point. I don't think there's ever been more of a self-inflicted wound than Mamamax did to his own career, which didn't even initially have anyone concerned. He reached out to YouTubers like Nick, Mudahar, and Turkey Tom to tell about his story about Gerard. Believing Max to be a good faith actor, all of them asked to promote the story was evidence. Seems easy enough. Or asking him to release his video about the topic before they spread about the topic in question. Refusing to provide sufficient evidence for the narrative he was claiming to have happened, Mamamax would release a couple of videos heavily implying moral culpability with every influencer who didn't support his campaign against Gerard Davis and the Leviathans.
During every day, and how our collective inaction is failing them on a global scale. Every influencer, regardless of their current engagement level, has a platform that could be used to drive significant change. There is an array of methods to address these issues in a way that is both impactful and accessible to their audience. As people with the power to influence public opinion, we are not doing enough.
Sound familiar? It's exactly what he did with Answer Us PedoTube or Pick a Side YouTube. Most people willing to give him their unwavering support because collectively speaking, ain't nobody really got YouTube's back. And if they did, I'm sure that most peeps probably looked at them as some sort of shill for the most part. Man started to become more unhinged at the seams when he placed Penguin Zero on a thumbnail. Since Max didn't answer one of his DMs on Discord, Max obviously feeling an obligation from others to speak to him. The irony was that Critical initially signal boosted Max because he believed him to be someone sufficient enough to handle these cases on his own, either due to having a stronger moral fortitude and having an exceptional level of moral rigor to continuously pursuing this on a regular basis. At least that's the framework I imagine Critical operated under when he supported Mamamax. Critical doesn't always tackle these subject matters. At least he does so with there being an exceptional level of definitive evidence about the topic at hand. Which is why having people who do enough research to say confidently on the platforms that predators are conducting and operating within places and crevices you would never imagine are important. Suffice it to say, people gave him support to ensure there was somebody on the platform who could pursue these stories correctly. Unfortunately, he would find out that that wasn't anywhere near what Max was doing. Not only showing that he didn't have enough evidence to publicly call out the person the way he did.
Mamamax hasn't even seen all of his own evidence yet.
Holy
you are putting words in my mouth.
I'm not putting words in your mouth. That's what you said. You said you only verified Spencer's evidence. You didn't even properly analyze or timeline the evidence of the other victims. That's not putting words into your mouth. That's literally repeating.
Can you allow me to clarify them?
Sure, clarify this, please.
I am in the server where they are posting evidence. Not all of them have walked me through what the evidence is as to what the context is.
Okay. So you can't verify the evidence then.
What does that mean? I can't verify it.
You can't verify if what they're posting is legitimate.
It means
And to assure everyone at home, most people weren't against victims speaking out about their past traumas. But that wasn't at all what Max was asking for and from people. He was asking them to signal boost his video, a desire to lend credence to the legitimacy of what was occurring.
Evidence in a Discord server.
with other influencers as well.
Yes, you can ask Mutahar if he's seen some of the evidence.
Even tossing out Mutahara's name, even though Mutahara had signed the NDA, so he didn't speak publicly in detail about this subject matter. However, anyone knowledgeable about what it means to have someone rubber stamp someone's name on top of the evidence means that most people are going to assume that Mutahara has given permission to Max to use his name to bring forth legitimacy to the case at hand. I mean, if we really about to talk about this and supposedly trying to get justice for the victims, he started promoting this to people who had no expertise in the field he was in, such as Anthony Fantano.
The show it's about rape. Okay.
Or to people like Joe Rogan.
What don't women understand about men?
Cheeseburgers.
Let's speak candidly about what Mamamax desired. He wanted to show this video to as many people as possible, to maximize the amount of audience that would have known about the existence of his channel and the video series he was doing. An abundance of eyeballs doesn't mean an abundance of expertise. And I think Mamamax knew this better than most. Like Joe Rogan, my guy? Yeah, I'm sure he's the guy who's gonna pick cult leaders behind bars. No one wanted to be a part of Mamamax's campaign ever since Pick a Side YouTube, which he abused the supportive voices that were a part of his video, making accusations most people wouldn't have gotten behind had they had some knowledge of the accusations that would have been made in that video. Susan Wojcicki stepping down meant nothing to me. I even remember making a tweet about it, which unfortunately I won't be able to find, but I even said at the time period that this could have easily have gone south. I think the CEO would have had every right to terminate majority of the channels, accusing them of harboring pedophiles. I think it's very apparent up to this point that Mamamax has clearly exploited the trust that victims placed in him, even using them as shields to avoid accountability.
What it felt like seeing him on streams.
You went on with Tommy and Lyrics and are sitting there talking to them when you literally haven't spoken to the other survivors.
Hold on, can you put Max on for a second?
I'm right here.
That was snaky as fuck, dude. Oh, I'm coming after you, Mutahar. Stand back, Spencer. Can you tell him what you felt?
Or to get around the very thin veiled threats that most wouldn't pay much attention to because it wasn't happening to fellow YouTubers, Max had created a impenetrable field of protection around the guise of doing right by SA victims. The self-destruction was only caused when Max's own narcissistic behaviors. But sometimes people ain't motivated by these emotions sometimes. Sometimes it's just about maximizing the amount of harm you can do to an individual.
The show, not what you thinking, no. Need a certain kind of person hurting from the daily grind and join us in the search where we find true potential.
On July 27th, Lex, a past employee of Supermega, would upload a video called My Experiences with Don and Supermega. She was there to share her past experiences with previous partner Don that went south due to poor communications amongst the two. Boundaries were violated, making Lex uncomfortable with the idea of continuing to work with Don, with them working with Supermega. This incident wouldn't resurface until she expressed her concerns to Matt and Ryan about the incident.
I don't know. Maybe I was scared to call Matt. I messaged Ryan and I said, hey, are you free for a call right now? At like 10:30. I said, it's pretty late, so if not, it's fine. He said, sure, call if you want. Calling with Ryan made me feel even better because he immediately apologized and was like, I'm so sorry that happened. So I hadn't gotten many reactions at all so far, so this was at this point a good one. He went into detail just saying like, you know, what he did was wrong and he deserves, you know, to be held accountable for what he did. Stuff that you generally would want to hear, I think. I felt a lot better after I talked to him. I don't know why or how, but somehow I had no dialogue with Matt for 2 days after my call with Ryan. My call that made me feel a lot better. And my call with Matt was probably the worst thing I could have imagined.
Naturally, wanting to know more about the entire story, they went on to ask both parties about the recounting of events.
Truth be told, I had a bit of a hard time accepting it. I soon asked Don about this, and what he told me was he chalked it up to basically a misunderstanding in the bedroom.
At the liberation, Don was moved from Super Mega office and had future potential career opportunities destroyed, like working with Rubber Ross.
In response to what Lex told us, we removed Don as our channel artist and we cut contact with him 100%. Personal business, we have not had any communications. And we did not cover this up from other people. For example, I was the one who told Ross over the phone because Ross had a show with Dawn and I felt like he needed to know this. However, we weren't like super open about this to people, especially, you know, we didn't say anything to the public about it. We never stated our reasoning for cutting contact with Dawn or removing him as the channel artist because Lex had not publicly talked about this.
This is a direct result of Super Mega informing them of what had occurred. The reason why I'm saying all of this is because I think it's important to account for all the ways Super Mega conducted themselves to the best of their ability. Naturally, since both of these people were both their friends, there's a likelihood they wanted to blindly take one person's side. Even with all that understood, they still apologized for not acting fast enough. Super Mega allowed Lex to live in the office for some time after all of this, and they kept in touch for months past this for the most part, which becomes confusing since if you go by Lex's recounting of events, there's some questionable aspects to it all. For one of the biggest taglines often taken away from the video is that Super Mega was their magnum opus.
What happened when Matt told me that Super Mega was his magnum opus after I told him I got assaulted?
Perhaps the most infamous is his remark that Super Mega was his magnum opus. This line is referenced throughout the video as a phrase he'd apparently repeat often.
He said, Super Mega's my magnum opus, and I would hate for something to mess it up. He said that multiple times. I remember I was sitting on like the curb of the parking lot of where I was staying at the time, outside, just like staring, because I never in a million years would have expected Matt, my friend Matt, to say something like that to me.
On May 3rd,
which there was never given any evidence or provided any evidence that they ever said that. This in of itself wouldn't be cause for concern, but throughout the video, Lex gives off the impression that they were trying to sweep this under the rug.
Say like what exactly they were talking about to begin with, and so they walked away from that conversation as if they got anything done when it didn't really do anything at all. Like, it seems like it just made Matt and Ryan feel better that they like did what they said they were going to do as far as like talking to him. But for all intents and purposes, like from them telling me and from Rav telling me, because he had been staying there ever since Creator Clash was over, we both had gathered that they basically wanted us to make up. They never told me this, but every action from them was masked as disciplinary, but it was more like scolding. Like, you're just like, man, you can't do that. That's really a big no-no.
The issue here is multiple times throughout the video, Lex said straight up that she wanted to move past this time period. So for anybody in the broader public who was stating that they should have made some public statement, it would have actively gone against the wishes of the victim.
Talk to more people about the Don thing, what happened with him, to give context to why I don't want to see him. Why would I ask my friend to make sure I don't see someone? It genuinely would have to be a good reason, and I thought it was, so that's why I just told them.
About why he was fired, and still talking to fans about it. They don't even touch on the fact that Ryan liked art from Don after they fired him on Twitter, and Don tweeted out asking people for a place to stay when none of Super Mega's fans knew that he sexually assaulted someone else.
However, in editing, Nick realized a far simpler explanation. They didn't tell Don why he was fired.
And it could really only either be Don lying to people about this so he doesn't have to admit what he did, or maybe the talk he had with Super Mega was confusing confusing and vague to him. But we really never got any response about that.
Nick uses this to argue that Matt and Ryan covered up the essay. He argues that they should have ignored Lex's wishes to keep the story private, as Dawn was an active threat to others. He argues that they should ignore the victim's wishes to not tell the story, which would obviously traumatize her. That is insane.
I'm all for keeping Lex's story private if she wants it to be private, but there's got to be a way to tell your fans in a safe way that Don is not someone who they should follow anymore, that he was let go for a reason that you can't talk about, but you need them to know that it's serious and that they shouldn't really engage with him anymore.
But I'm gonna be honest with you, in the court of public opinion, it's often a lose-lose situation. Many of them stated that they should have just done what was proper to do in these situations and made a public statement. Some people are stating that they should go by what the victim had wanted all this time, but seem to actively ignore what the victim said in their own video and how that came across as contradictory. Many people, like Nickisnotgreen, stated they should have made some public statement, in contrast to what Lex had said in her own video and how many times it was suggested that it should have stayed private. Some say that they should have said something because Don is a danger and the public should know. Well, let's tackle that just as. Let's evaluate what actually occurred there. For one, we got two not properly communicating to one another.
I remember being so anxious. I feel like I was having like a mini panic attack or something. I was really bad at talking. It was like an exercise.
2. Don apologized profusely for what happened once he was made known about how Lex felt.
The first night, when you were like pushing my head down and I was telling you no, yes, he says, basically. He like didn't dispute anything that I said, he was just saying yes. And
Dawn, the thumbnail artist for Super Mega that is being accused of sexually assaulting Lex, also responded to this on Twitter with a statement that says, "My statement on what happened with Lex, Updog, and Super Mega. This is how things transpired from my point of view. I want to start this off by apologizing to Lex for any trauma she may feel regarding our past relationship, and to anyone just finding out about this who feels they were being lied to or kept in the dark. In regards to what happened during November 2021, this is my side as to what happened. Lex and I were invited over by Matt to stay over at his place for a week. We had been intimate since day one, but on the third night I had asked her for oral sex. She at first said no, because she had a cold sore. Later I asked her again and she said yes, but to be careful not to be too rough. During the intimate act, I had pushed her down on her head, after which she recoiled and told me that I was being too rough. I then profusely apologized, and we ended up watching TV and going to bed after. Things were normal for the rest of the week, until the trip was over and we went back home. During this time, I was under no impression that anything traumatizing had occurred. However, I realize now that was incredibly upsetting for her. Our relationship seemed to have not changed. We were talking on Discord almost daily and planning future trips together. However, a couple of months later when we met again during Creator Clash, during the trip me and Lex stayed together in an Airbnb and noticed that she was growing very distant towards me. I asked her about why she was distant and if everything was okay with her, but I was not given a straight answer. On the final day, she finally told me why she was so troubled. She told me I was too rough with her last time, and I had reminded her of her ex's behavior. I had tried to apologize for my behavior, and we talked a little bit after. After the conversation had ended, she had broken up with me.
He wanted to do, he like choked me on my windpipe. Like he was like trying to choke me in a sexy way, but he was like choking me and I was like breathing like very audibly, like not well. And I think at this point I was too scared to like say anything, and I didn't think he would listen to this. No, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. Eventually he let me go, but was that and that you can't do it? Because all it takes, all it would have taken is for me to have been like, no, I don't want to, and for him to stop, but he didn't. Nonetheless, so I say all this, and he says, so does that mean you're breaking up with me? And I was like, what? Yeah. To me, it was like, yeah, no. And that out of everything I said was both the shortest response I had to say, or like the shortest thing I had to say to him, and the most devastating. We're on a sidewalk, like we're walking, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be with you. And he stops directly under the streetlight and does this for like a minute in front of me. I don't know. It felt so performative. And I was like, I gotta talk to you about this thing.
Lex shows a photo to date this conversation, May 16th. What Lex doesn't show you are these tweets from the literal day before. On May 15th, Don posted 2 real-life photos to Twitter. The first is of him at the beach with the caption, "Found the love." Lex replied, "We don't need to know where the love is anymore. We found it." The second is Don holding Lex in his arms. Lex replied, "Strange woman fresh from the ocean." If you didn't want people to think you were dating this person, why would you let him take, post, and reply to these photos? Furthermore, all of this occurred way after the apparent incident.
And during all of this, they stayed with her in the same room they had rented out for a con, and he didn't attempt anything. To me, this doesn't come across as a perpetual sexual pest. The notion that Don is just out here being the booty warrior just doesn't seem to match this illustration that he's such a danger to the public at large that they had to constantly inform the public of the danger of even associating or being in his proximity. Post-editing Apex here, just wanted to say that I'm not arguing that Lex didn't feel sexually assaulted or that the accident that occurred here wasn't sexual assault. I just feel like it's very important to note that Don wasn't this continuous threat as that people are continuously claiming. Recentering the discussion, you can see why a lot of this starts to feel questionable, right? Lex's video is less about Don and more about painting Super Mega in this super negative light, accusing them of not being supportive enough.
Somehow, I had no dialogue with Matt for 2 days after my call with Ryan, my call that made me feel a lot better. And my call with Matt was probably the worst thing I could have imagined. That's how the conversation went. You know, he's apologizing about Teddy. I booked my flight, so I told him when. This is what he says after. Very nice words, right? I personally think him and Ryan did lots of talking before he decided to call me back, because his phone's with him all the time. He could have called me back at any point. I think by the time I got off the phone with Ryan, it was probably already too late for me to like tell things how I wanted to, because it wasn't my choice anymore.
Context, here are the text messages right before and right after that call, showing that I was supportive. I was not completely callous like it was made out to be. Lex came over to my place to crash for the night. While we were in the living room after we got back, I was on one couch, she was on the other. We had a very in-depth conversation about the entire Dawn situation. At this point, I had had more time to reflect on it and kind of see where I had messed up and better understood what had actually taken place and how my response to that was poor. In this conversation, I sincerely apologized to Lex. I admitted where I was wrong and I took responsibility. I expressed remorse for how I had acted during the situation, and she accepted my apology.
By not taking her word at face value, by kicking them out of the office, except neither one of these things happened.
Come up was Matt offered to pay for me to live somewhere, like down payment plus several months, which if you're in LA, if you know anything about the housing market in LA, is an exorbitant amount of money. You guys on a vacation again, insinuating that we're doing it only for fun. Weeks for my mom's birthday, so that was I think a 4 or 5 day trip to Gatlinburg, plus the day before to travel there, and then the rest of the time was traveling back, so maybe like at most 7 days of travel.
Shortly after they made the decision to voluntarily leave the office, we did not throw them out. We did not make them homeless. Here is a text message where they're talking about leaving the office. Rav says, "But yeah, y'all have certainly gone above and beyond with your generosity and allowing us to crash for as long as y'all have, and we'd hate to overstay our welcome any further than we already have. All of our stuff, with the exception of my 2 suitcases in the corner of y'all's living room space, should currently be in the garage, and when we're back, what we can do is move all of our said stuff into a proper storage space under lock and key somewhere away from the office, so as to not keep taking up y'all's workspace. We'll also stop crashing at the office, so no worries on that front either. If y'all have any other concerns, let me know. Thank you for letting us crash for mad long, and sorry for not getting out of y'all's hair sooner." Lex stated that we did not allow them to come pick their stuff up, which is not true. Here's a text between us on September 4th where she said, "Hey, sorry to bother you. Just wanted to check in to ask if I could grab some of my stuff from the office. We'll be shooting some pics/videos today at an abandoned water park a couple hours away, so I wanted to grab my camera and Amazon stuff I got sent there. Hope you're doing okay today." I said, "Yeah, that's fine. I'm not sure if anyone is there though." She texted me 2 days later saying, "Ended up not coming over when I mentioned LOL. Would any time today be a good time to stop by and grab some stuff? I can come by myself." I said, yeah, I think Jim will be there for a while. Text him just to be sure. I just bounced and just saw this. She then said, coordinated with Jim. Thank you. I just left a little bit ago. I grabbed everything and threw away a lot of stuff that was in/around the garage. Thank you so much for letting us stay there. I hope you're having a good night.
Worst of all, she accused them both of calling their friend a coward for taking their own life.
Twice in front of me, separate times we'll hang out with him, has called Daniel a coward. So no, they don't care about suicide. They don't give a shit about suicide. They only give a shit about themselves and who they can make jokes of that are under them that they can get away with.
So this next stuff is stuff that I don't really feel comfortable talking about, but it was brought up, so I have to address it. The first thing is that in her video, Lex accused me of calling my friend Daniel, who passed away from suicide in 2015, a coward on multiple occasions. This really hurt to hear because this is simply untrue. I have no recollection of ever opening up to Lex about my friend's suicide. And if I ever did open up to her about it, I know that I would never have referred to him in the manner that she portrayed. That experience affected me and Ryan more than anything has ever affected us in our lives, and it's something that we're still recovering from. And if you've dealt with suicide, you know that grief is different for each person, and you know that there are a lot of complex and confusing emotions that come with the grief regarding suicide. Some of those include anger, and if I ever expressed that to Lex, which again I firmly believe that I did not, if that's the case, then I find it wildly inappropriate that Lex would use something I said in a very vulnerable state to weaponize and to make me look worse.
All under the guise of victims expressing their feelings, resulting in many people following suit, scorn lovers.
And I figured that that was normal, and that's kind of just what is the typical life cycle of a hookup. I was very surprised to hear what Morgan had to say on stream, considering last month in June, we had a very pleasant conversation where we tied up any loose ends and smoothed everything out, and I'm going to share that conversation. Morgan reached out to me on June 8th and said, hey Matt, hope you're doing well. I said, hey, I've been doing okay. Been really busy and stressed, but I'm pushing through. How have you been? She said, oh man, me too. Supremely stressed, but I'm coming to LA this month and I'll be doing so much cool shit, so I'm excited. Glad to hear you're pushing through. I said, I'm just kind of exhausted with tour coming up and stuff, but I'll be okay. I've been doing therapy a lot, which has been super helpful, and glad to hear you're doing cool shit. She replies with, oh, I'm so happy to hear therapy has been helping. I've had mixed results with that. Great when it actually works out. She replies with, yeah, man, I'm excited, but yeah, just thought I'd check up on you because even though things got a little weird, I'll always care about you, dude. Hope you have a great tour too.
Ex-employees.
And as proof of that, here are screenshots from several occasions where I made sure Leighton was comfortable with these types of jokes, to which he always replied yes, and even in one message said it would be weird if we stopped. In this message, Leighton says he sees no issues with the jokes. Here he says he feels more comfortable around us than anyone. And I said, real talk, we absolutely love having you as a part of Super Mega. You've completely revolutionized our company. Leighton responds by saying, I love all the gay jokes you guys throw at me. And I said, you're a crucial member now. If they're ever too much though, just tell us. And he said, I'm so fucking happy to hear that. I fucking love working with you guys. Nah, you guys have never offended me. I think Justin is nervous that it'll come off as homophobic, but I love you guys and the gay jokes. It would be weird if you guys held back, LMAO. I jokingly said, screenshotting all this to cover my ass, which he said LMAO to.
YouTubers who were malicious actors who just wanted to make bank off of the current topic exploited the notion of validating the voice of victims regardless of if these people had issues with what had occurred at the time period when they transpired.
Like an online, normal thing where I look at all the facts. Of course, I'm gonna take the side of a personal friend of mine. I have no agenda.
Like, come on, do you think these people were doing it for the right reasons? You gonna sit up here and tell me these people were doing it for the right reasons? Super Mega fires the proper employee and that results in them doing live streams where they're watching the subscription count go down as a result of this drama. Most claim they didn't want to take away the spotlight from the victim, but this discourse became anything other than what occurred, which is weird when you take into account that people who who initially made this story public were the ones who were making it everything about the actual assault that had occurred. Let me be clear. These people are opportunistic. You wanted a reason to attack them over petty crimes, with at the forefront sexual assault being the moral justification for a lot of it. I'll say here that it absolutely could have been traumatizing for Lex to deal with that. The fact that she didn't know how to properly express herself in sexual situations says volumes about the fact that she probably should refrain until she can set up proper boundaries and to know how to communicate with others. To me, this whole debacle comes across as trying to give virtue to the conduct. I can imagine children, even teenagers being misguided, but these are adults, influencers who waited for the perfect moment to strike. Sure, you can say that Matt and Ryan came out on top, but this was mostly a byproduct of them keeping receipts. With victims of this nature and victim capture, a large sum of commentators still remark about the statements by saying that this shouldn't have gotten away from the victim, ignoring how Lex herself made this majority about Super Mega, and 10% of her video is dedicated to the actual sexual misconduct that had occurred.
Of others, and which of them is most evil?
With the severity of what I'm chatting about, I thought it'd be important to have some prescription with the current discourse. So what advice could be offered to the handling of victim capture? The prescription that comes from the understanding of potential victims that can be created by your own character. Not knowing definitively what's transpiring could result in the image falsely being attributed to a person, causing trauma. We can all support victims when they desire to be felt seen. There's nothing wrong with any of that. However, when we decide to take that discourse and make it public, it is best to know for certain what we're discussing. The prior sentence alone should show that you can support somebody without making any public accusations. You can be there for a person without falsely accusing individuals. Encourage the victim to go through the proper channels. The best chance of them getting justice for the abhorrent actions that had happened is to ensure that it never happens again and that that individual can never act again. Going to police ought to be the first on the list and the top and only priority. There's an image I gotta tackle for the sake of emphasizing my point. It's called "In the Case of Someone Being a Potential Victim of Grooming." There's a dichotomy brought up immediately. So for the rest of this video, I thought it'd be apropos for me to go down each one of the points.
Someone is a potential victim of grooming.
Not only does the framework present it as an either or, this dialogue tree doesn't entertain the idea of not engaging until the facts of the matter are more solid. As it states already, supporting the word doesn't require public condemnation. The worst you can do is permanently ruin someone's reputation, and by the time the truth comes out, no one knows or little to no one makes any corrections.
You chose to discredit their word and defend the person they've accused. It turns out the accusation was false. You were right, but now people are more likely to discredit true claims, and your ways of defending the accused were most likely incredibly harmful for grooming victims to see. It turns out the accusations were true. You just defended a groomer.
Danger is getting it wrong comes with creating a victim through painting a target on an innocent individual. This feels like a slippery slope. That's not necessarily the case. And more importantly, you don't have to publicly defend the person in question. Yes, that's the danger with not wording yourself carefully about allegations. You shouldn't speak about something with little info with absolute certainty. Ultimately, there's a danger in conducting yourself as if the info known to the public is settled science. To truly illustrate what I desire to get across with this video, we need to discuss digital existential crisis. It's the permanence of what occurs and the primary understood collective truth. thus resulting in whatever fact of the matter becoming inconsequential. Crimes considered true, thus becoming inescapable on the basis of their incendiary nature, causing people to attempt to remove others from the place of employment, and when done right, predators become ostracized by society at large. They are incapable of acclimating to the environment created by their actions being known by the internet. EDP 445 is a primary example for all of this. No matter what he does, he's been run off the internet. He has destroyed all fame he had, and he's now ostracized, completely ruined and incapable of getting a normal job. This sort of ire that can be amalgamation of the collective knowledge and ability by the internet makes it all the more important we get this shit right when we do it. Victim capture pushes us to carry water to harm with a lack of certainty, but with a definitive belief that we're doing the right thing. This is a fear that should be known and understood by all those who decide to make their voices known on the internet, since it is an obelisk of the passage of time, making innocent people an internal evil within the minds of all those who have memories of them. With collective truth, it becomes an insurmountable hurdle to ever climb. It's the very reason why victim capture is something we all should be diligently mindful of. But hey, that's everything for me. I'm Android Apex. I be on the same shit, so you know where to find me at.